Karua, formidable lawyer and seasoned lawmaker, is what you'd call a tough-skinned politician with a political career that spans decades, from parliament to the closely guarded cabinet meetings of the troubled Kibaki presidency. The high and lows of her career, however, represent the long, winding and weary road often traveled by Kenya's female politicians. While female politicians have time and again proven to possess great vision and even diligence in public service, a rare trait amongst members of Kenya's Mheshimiwa class, the Kenyan electorate has always been reluctant to elevate as many women as men to positions of power through the ballot for reasons that are deeply entrenched in Kenya's patriarchal society. Karua is one such politician who has been on the sharp end of this patriarchal bias that has left Kenya's governments one after another dominated by men and chauvinism from the bottom right to the top. During her time as Minister for Justice, National Cohesion and Constitutional Affairs in President Kibaki's two-term presidency, Karua faced and withstood many storms, being one of very few women to serve as minister, including the turbulent post-election violence period and a constitution that left many powers to the man in the president's office. In April 2009, Karua differed with her boss, President Mwai Kibaki, over the appointment of judges, and Karua resigned from the fragile Grand Coalition government and therefore set precedence as one of the two cabinet ministers to ever resign from cabinet in such a manner. However, Karua's boldness, which has often and chauvinistically been contrasted with her being a woman, had manifested before and after the April 2009 iconic resignation. In 1998, Karua was offered a position as a shadow minister for culture and social services in Moi's final cabinet, but she declined, saying it conflicted with her position as National Secretary for Constitutional Affairs in her DP party then. In 2001, when a bill to review and eventually amend the constitution was presented in parliament, where Karua was member for Gishugu, every member in the opposition walked out in protest of the bill. But Karua, despite being in the opposition then, did not walk out with the other lawmakers, but instead opted to stay and voice her objections to the bill. Hers was the only objection recorded in the Hansard on that day. 2 years later, during the 2003 general elections, Karua was among the top politicians that staged a scathing campaign that toppled Moi's 24-year-long stint and installed Kibaki as president under the all-new National Rainbow Coalition, NARC. In yet another display of defiance in June 2001, Karua walked out on President Moi's speech in Kirinyaga, an act that was lauded as brave since walking out on Moi was unheard of amongst the late president's friends and foes. The lawyer said she simply did not like the way the president talked about the opposition. Karua's concerted efforts to have more women's faces in high places in Kenya's political structure seemed to bear fruits when the 2010 constitution was promulgated and demanded revolutionary changes in the representation of women in government. The controversial two-third gender rule was introduced, signaling another long leg of gender wars both on the ballot and in the newly born bicameral parliament. The rule requires that both the National Assembly and the Senate should not have a composition of more than two-thirds of the same gender. At the time, the rule seemed simple and exciting to implement and appeared to be a silver bullet that would slay the decades-old dragon of underrepresentation of women in Kenya's power structures. However, close to 11 years since the new constitution was passed with pomp and jubilation, both houses, majorly consisting of men, have been unable to pass the gender rule, giving all manners of excuses, including saying that the provision is difficult to implement. Despite the fact of 47 women representatives elected to parliament, most pivotal political and socio-economic decisions that affect Kenya's women and girls, including contentious issues of sexual and reproductive health, are essentially made by men.